Hello everyone, and welcome to History of the Ancient World. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey back in time, not to witness epic battles or the rise and fall of emperors, but to follow the invisible threads that connected civilizations, the ancient trade routes. These weren't just paths for moving goods, they were the superhighways of ideas, cultures, technologies, and even religions. They shaped the world we live in today in ways you might not even imagine. So grab your virtual passport and let's explore how the ancient world was far more connected than you think. Our story begins not with a single road, but with a network of pathways that grew organically over thousands of years. Early humans were nomadic, following herds and seasons. As they moved, they bartered. A unique seashell from a coastal tribe might find its way hundreds of miles inland, exchanged for a sharp flint tool. This was the birth of trade. But the real game changer was the dawn of agriculture and the rise of the first cities in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley around 3000 BC. Suddenly, communities had surpluses, more grain, more pottery, more textiles than they needed. And they had a desire for things they didn't have: precious metals, strong timber for building, and exotic stones for decoration. This created the perfect conditions for the first major trade routes to emerge. Let's look at one of the earliest, the tin and copper routes. To make bronze, the metal that defined an entire age, you need both copper and tin. Copper was relatively common, but tin was rare, found only in a few places like modern-day Afghanistan and Turkey. This scarcity drove an immense trade network. Caravans of donkeys would trek across treacherous mountains and deserts, carrying these vital ingredients to the great workshops of Mesopotamia and Egypt. The Bronze Age simply couldn't have happened without this international trade. These routes didn't just carry metals, they carried the knowledge of how to work them, spreading the secrets of metallurgy across the Near East. As we move forward in time, empires began to recognize the power and wealth that came from controlling these trade arteries. The Persian Empire, under rulers like Darius the Great, was one of the first to truly master this. They established the Royal Road, a marvel of ancient engineering stretching over 1,600 miles from Susa in Persia to Sardis in Anatolia. It wasn't just a dirt track. It was a well-maintained highway, with posting stations every 15 to 20 miles. Royal messengers could cover the entire length of the road in just 7 days, a journey that would take a normal traveler 3 months. This incredible infrastructure facilitated not only the movement of armies and administrators, but also a massive volume of trade, making the Persian Empire fabulously wealthy and connecting its diverse territories like never before. But when people think of ancient trade, one name inevitably comes to mind: the Silk Road. And for good reason. This wasn't a single road, but a vast network of routes connecting Han China with the Mediterranean world. And its most famous commodity, of course, was silk. For centuries, only the Chinese knew the secret of how to produce this luxurious, lightweight fabric from the cocoons of silkworms. To the Romans, it was a material of almost mythical status. It was so valuable that it was literally worth its weight in gold. Roman aristocrats, both men and women, were desperate to wear it, despite moralists complaining about its sheerness and the immense cost that was draining the empire's coffers. The journey along the Silk Road was perilous. Merchants formed large caravans of camels, the ships of the desert, to protect themselves from bandits and the harsh environment. They traveled through some of the most unforgiving landscapes on earth, from the scorching Taklamakan Desert, whose name means "you go in and you don't come out," to the towering Pamir Mountains. No single merchant ever made the entire journey from China to Rome. Instead, it was a relay race. Chinese traders would sell their silk to Sogdian or Parthian middlemen in bustling oasis cities like Samarkand or Bukhara. These middlemen would then transport the goods further west, selling them to Roman or Syrian merchants at the edge of the Mediterranean. At each step, the price increased, which is why by the time a boat of silk reached Rome, its price was astronomical. But the Silk Road was a two-way street. While silk flowed west, a torrent of other goods and ideas flowed east. Rome sent glassware, fine pottery, and gold coins. India exported spices, precious gems, and cotton textiles. But perhaps the most impactful export along the Silk Road was Buddhism. Originating in India, Buddhist missionaries traveled with the merchant caravans, spreading their teachings eastward. They found fertile ground in Central Asia and eventually China, where Buddhism would become one of the most dominant philosophical and religious systems, shaping art, culture, and society for millennia. This is a perfect example of how trade routes were conduits for culture. While caravans were crossing the deserts, an equally important trade network was developing on the high seas. The Indian Ocean monsoon marketplace was the maritime equivalent of the Silk Road. Ancient sailors, from Egyptians and Romans to Indians and Arabs, learned to master the predictable monsoon winds. For half the year, the winds blew from the southwest, pushing ships from the coast of Africa and Arabia towards India. For the other half, they reversed, blowing from the northeast, allowing for a safe return journey. This incredible natural phenomenon created a thriving and interconnected maritime world. From the ports of Roman Egypt, ships known as dhows would set sail laden with gold, wine, and pottery. They would trade in the vibrant port cities of India's Malabar coast, exchanging their goods for pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. These spices were more than just flavorings. They were used as medicines, perfumes, and preservatives, making them incredibly valuable commodities in the West. The spice trade was so lucrative that it fueled the economies of entire kingdoms and empires. The Romans in particular had an insatiable appetite for Indian pepper. Archaeologists have even found huge caches of Roman coins in southern India, a testament to the sheer scale of this trade relationship. It was a globalized economy, ancient style. And let's not forget the incense route, which ran through the Arabian Peninsula. Frankincense and myrrh, aromatic resins harvested from trees in southern Arabia and the Horn of Africa, were essential for religious ceremonies across the ancient world. From the temples of Jerusalem to the altars of Rome, the smoke of this fragrant incense was believed to carry prayers to the gods. The Nabateans, the brilliant engineers who carved the city of Petra out of solid rock, grew rich by controlling this lucrative trade, levying taxes on the caravans that passed through their territory. Petra became a stunning cosmopolitan hub, a crossroads of cultures made possible by the demand for these fragrant resins. The decline of the great classical empires, like the Western Roman Empire and Han China, certainly disrupted these long-distance trade networks. Political instability made the roads more dangerous and the seas more prone to piracy. But trade never completely stopped. The connections had been forged and the demand for goods remained. The Byzantine Empire continued to trade for silk, and the rise of the Islamic caliphates in the 7th century AD actually revitalized many of the old routes, creating a new golden age of commerce and intellectual exchange that would stretch from Spain to the borders of China. So the next time you sprinkle pepper on your food or admire a piece of silk fabric, remember the ancient world. Remember the camel caravans braving the desert, the sailors mastering the monsoon winds, and the merchants haggling in a dozen different languages in a bustling bazaar. These ancient trade routes were the lifeblood of civilization. They didn't just move goods, they moved humanity forward, weaving a complex and beautiful tapestry of interconnected cultures that laid the foundation for the globalized world we know today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient history, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. Let us know in the comments which ancient trade route you find most fascinating. Until next time, stay curious.